Hi everyone, I'm here a few minutes early, so just take your time getting ready and we'll be starting in a few minutes. Just a few more minutes to go. Love to know where people are coming in from as well. I'm here in Brisbane. It's rather chilly today, but compared to some people who live in much colder locations than me, I'm sure it's positively balmy, but I've got a blanket on my feet right now trying to keep warm. Okay, only a couple of minutes and we'll get started. Okay, we will get started because it is right on 12 o'clock according to my time. So welcome to Feminine Confidence, the art of being in charge while letting go of control. So today you're going to learn the subtle difference between being in charge and being in control, and how when you can understand and live that difference, it can just bring such a level of ease and grace into how you go about achieving things in life. And so having ease and grace allows you to go forward boldly and with confidence towards your goals. So I'm Kim Adams, I'm going to be your host today. So it's going to be mainly me talking. I've only got a slide at the end, so it's just going to be me on your screen. So I would love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box or any comments as we go along. You might like to take some notes. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, grab that now. And it's lunchtime here in Australia, so maybe you're having your lunch. So please go ahead and enjoy that. And I intend to keep this to about 45 minutes. Mainly because I know a lot of people here are watching this during their lunch break, and also I find long webinars kind of tedious. They can sometimes go on for quite a long time, and even when there's lots of valuable information, it's a long time to sit down in front of a computer. So we'll try and keep it to the point. I've got some notes here, so if I'm looking down, it's just me trying to keep track of what I want to say and make sure I do say all the things that I want to. And if it's okay with you, at the end, I just want to spend a few minutes letting you know about my new program. I haven't told anyone else about this yet. It's being launched today, so I'll just take a few minutes to tell you about that, if that's okay. But let's get straight into it, not spend any more time here. So specifically, you're going to learn today how being mindfully present will start to open up more space for you to be focused and take focused action in your life. You're going to learn how letting go of fear or moving through fear will actually help you connect with being in flow, so you can boldly and confidently make decisions and make better decisions. And how part of being able to do all that is connecting in and listening and trusting your body, which I've found that a lot of women have trouble doing because of a whole host of reasons that I'll talk about. But it is really important to be able to step into listening to your body and trusting that it has the answers to where you want to go. And that is part of being in your feminine confidence. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because I've realised that feminine confidence has been what I've been shifting into over the last few years as I've started to make a lot of changes in my life, personally and work-wise, huge changes actually. And I've started to step into what I see now as more my feminine side, and how that is by no means a softer, gentler, more vulnerable way. It does embody all that more vulnerability, but it's coming from a really strong place. Now, I used to work in an organisation that was a very masculine organisation. It was in the criminal justice system. So as you can imagine, I worked with a lot of men. The organisation had mainly men in, especially in management where I worked, and those men were very masculine men by nature of their business. That was the personality that they attracted and recruited. And the organisation itself was a very masculine organisation. And by that I mean there was lots of rules, there was lots of structures that were very rigid, there was a lot of black and white thinking. It was a lot of goal-oriented, directive behaviour, speaking out, being bold was really rewarded in the workplace. And none of those things are bad. That was just the nature of the business. And I really enjoyed that. In my 20s and 30s, I found that quite an energising place to be. And I think I have naturally a somewhat of a masculine approach in that I'm quite a task-oriented person. I love making quick decisions. I love just doing stuff without having to fuss around with all the details or worrying about what everyone's going to think. Let's just make decisions and act. And I really enjoyed that. But I found as I moved into my later 30s and my 40s, I just started to find that that was exhausting. It was like I didn't fit with that mindset anymore, and I found it draining. I found it tiring, and it started to play on my ability to do a good job and to enjoy what I was doing. So I started to change a lot of things in my life. And the funny thing is, I've now gone from working in the past mainly with men to now pretty much working totally within a female area. My clients are all women. A lot of my colleagues, so other coaches or entrepreneurs that I work with, are primarily women. My own business coach is a woman. So I feel like I've transitioned from a very masculine world into a very female-dominated world. And it's been interesting reflecting on myself, how I've changed and how I approach things, and how easier it has been for me to achieve things, even though I'm not striving and pushing in the same way that I used to in my previous job. So that's why I wanted to talk today about this, because not only have I seen it in my own life, but in clients or female friends that I have, I see that happening with them, in that they're now starting to question, what is missing in my life? I'm successful. I've gone up the ladder with my job. I'm earning good money. I may or may not be in a relationship, but they're feeling good about that. But there's something missing. There's feeling like there should be more or that they're acting in a way that really doesn't reflect what they're thinking on the inside or what they're feeling on the inside, or everything else in their life seems like they've got it under control, but their health and their weight and their body doesn't reflect that. They feel like the person that they're presenting to the world is not the person that's really inside them. So there seems to be this shift that happens, I think, for many women who are successful, and particularly if they're successful in a very traditionally male-oriented profession, where it doesn't seem to gel anymore. And that doesn't mean they need to change their work or their job like I did, but it does mean they have to, or they want to, start looking at, well, how can I do things differently? How can I treat myself differently so that when I'm going out in the world, it's not just this shell of confidence, this fake confidence almost, that is what I put up to show people. It is actually reflected from the inside out. So the first thing I want to talk to about today is fine-tuning the ability to be present. So mindfulness is quite a trendy topic these days. There's a lot of podcasts and books written about mindfulness. And for some people, the idea of mindfulness is all about meditation. And for me, that's not what it's about. And meditation is one way of being mindful, but it's not for everyone. And I know it's taken a long time for me to get the hang of meditation. And even now, that's not my most favourite or easiest thing to do. My personality, my nature makes that quite difficult. But mindfulness can be practiced in every moment of your day, no matter what you're doing. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I see that there's a underlying anxiety or overwhelming, or feeling overwhelmed, that sometimes we carry around for so long that we don't even realise we have it. It becomes our normal. And I liken it to if you were given a 10 kilo or a 20 pound weight and they put it on your back and you walked around for years with that weight on your back, you wouldn't notice it was there anymore. It would just be part of what you're doing or part of how you live. And then one day if someone came along and took that weight off you, there'd be that sudden feeling of lightness, like, oh, this is what it's meant to feel like. And I think that can be the way with stress and overwhelm, is that if we're living such a busy life all the time, it becomes normal and we don't even realise how it's impacting on our health. And we do know, I mean, the research shows now what stress does for our health, and what stress does for our weight, and how it can really make it quite difficult, especially for women, to lose weight. So it's really important to make sure we can connect down with that feeling of relaxation and to connect in with our relaxation response. So you may have heard about the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system before. Our sympathetic nervous system is our stress response. So that's when we can pump out the cortisol and the insulin and the adrenaline and, respond to danger. And our body is really well adapted to responding to acute stress, to actual physical risk to ourselves. And so we respond well to that and our body copes with it. But our body is not designed to cope with low-level, constant, chronic stress. So what we want to be able to do is switch over into our parasympathetic nervous system mode, which is our relaxation response. And yoga and meditation and a lot of the more Eastern philosophies of health have spoken about breathing and the importance of breathing for relaxation for years. And the scientific research now is showing how important that is and how it is one of the quickest and most simplest things you can do to switch your body out of a stress response into a relaxation response. So I want to just talk really quickly about 3 elements that come from yoga. And you don't have to do yoga to do these things, but I think there are 3 components of how you can go about facing your day that you can bring into your day at any point to help manage stress and to bring more mindfulness into your life. So mindfulness really is simply the art of being fully present in the moment without judgment and with full awareness. That's all it means. And so these three things that I want to talk that will help you be more mindful are breath, withdrawal of the senses, and focus. And I'll quickly share with you what I mean by that and how you can start to practice those things. So the first thing, as I mentioned, is breath. Breath is important to the relaxation response. And breathing, by improving your breathing, all I'm talking about is starting to breathe more deeply and fully into our lungs and into our belly, which, as I mentioned, has been shown to almost instantly switch our neurochemical balance and system over into relaxation response. So the simple act of stopping for just a few moments and doing some really deep belly breaths can really change how you are reacting in the moment. You know, that anxiety you might get before you go to a meeting, or even in the morning when you're trying to get ready for work and you've got kids, or whatever it is that's causing that overwhelm and anxiety. Taking the moment to do those deep breathing exercises can really make a difference. And you can do that anywhere at any time. The second thing is withdrawal of the senses. And I think this is important in our modern life, because if you're like me, you've probably got the radio on while you're working, or you're working in an open plan office, there's noise everywhere, you have an iPhone, you have an iPad, you have a computer, so there's information coming at you from everywhere. And there's just so much sensation available to us at any point in time that it overwhelms the senses. So meditation is one of the techniques people use to withdraw the senses, but you don't have to meditate to do that. It really is about focusing in, using the breath again, and focusing in on feeling into your body and just being still. And this connects with the third, which is focus. And again, this links to the lifestyle we lead. We have not only all these sensations coming in, there's an expectation that we can deal with them all. And our brain actually takes in a couple of million, about 2 million bits of information at any point in time is going into our brain through our senses. And yet we can only focus on a couple of 100 bits of information at any time. So we have to choose what we focus on. So by making the right choices, you can then help be much more mindfully present rather than scattering your attention to 10 different things at once. And this is really just a habit. The habits we have of multitasking, which is highly overrated. Multitasking has been put on a pedestal like we're better workers, we're better women if we can do 10 things at once, when really all we're doing is doing 10 things not as well as we could do. So focusing on just doing what you're doing at the current time is mindfulness, whether that is working on a task at your office, or whether that's preparing a meal, or whether that's going for a walk, is doing just one thing at a time. And it's practice. It's a habit that you have to change if you want to start relaxing and connecting back in with yourself. And when I was in Bali a few years ago, I noted a beautiful practice they have. And I like the word ritual. Ritual, to me, says that it's something that we do all the time with intention. And they have this ritual every morning that's based on their religion, their spirituality. Balinese have a Hindu religion that's very influenced by animism. So they make offerings to their gods every morning in their family compound. They have a temple which they make an offering to. And in that moment of making that offering, no matter how busy that is, and there's people coming and going and animals and motorbikes, and if anyone's ever been to any Southeast Asian country, you know how busy and hectic it can be. And in that moment, they go into a very quiet, peaceful way of being. They have their offering. You see them become very quiet, and they focus on making their offering to their God and asking for abundance or health or safety or good luck or whatever they are praying for on that particular day. And they're just in that moment. And it only takes a few minutes. It's not something that has to take a long time to achieve that stillness. And that moment of stillness just sets you up for the day to allow more ease and grace to come into your life, so that you're not constantly striving and trying and pushing and making things happen. It allows you to step back. Which is interesting. If you read any management literature or confidence literature lately, there's a lot of terms like leaning into. You have to lean into to move forward. I think sometimes you have to lean back in order to move forward. Pushing forward has its place, but sometimes the simple act of leaning back and taking a moment then allows energy, doorways, opportunities to open so that you can move forward more easily rather than forcefully. Which is interesting, because I think a lot of us get stuck in moving forward because we don't feel we are good enough. And this is moving into the second component that I wanted to speak about today, which is fear. And we get stuck in wanting to move into things because we feel fear. And sometimes we don't even realize it's fear. Fear can come in many forms. Some of it's conscious fear. Fear of public speaking, fear of snakes, fear of height. We know what we're scared of. But a lot of fear is actually quite subconscious, and we don't even realize that it's influencing decisions that we're making. It could be a fear of not being good enough, and it's influencing your willingness to step into a new opportunity, or willingness to even see a new opportunity. Fear of failure, fear of making a fool of yourself, fear of so many things that sometimes you don't even know is influencing the decisions that we're making, and they keep us stuck right where we are. And the thing is, fear is a very primal thing. It comes from our reptilian brain, the amygdala. The experience of fear is very primal, and it's controlled by how we perceive that is controlled by our ego mind that wants to protect us. Fear in itself isn't a bad thing, and our mind that's holding us back by saying, maybe you're not ready, maybe people will laugh, maybe you will fail, is your mind trying to protect you. So it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just that protective barrier that we've put up around ourselves no longer serves us. And a lot of these fears come from younger in life. And in many ways, it's not important to go back and analyse why. But just as an example, if you grew up in a family where there was maybe a bit of volatility, you might have your mind learnt that it wasn't wise to speak up and be seen. It was more safe. It was better for you if you just kind of blended in, didn't speak up, not be seen. It was safer. And that's probably a very valid thing for your mind to teach you as a child, that this is the safe way to go. But now that you're 30 or 35 or 25 or 45, fear of not being seen, not being willing to speak up is not going to help you if you're after a promotion. It's not going to help you if you're looking for love and you're not willing to put yourself out there. So that fear no longer serves you anymore. It's time to step through that. And also it's a comfort zone thing. Of course we want to stay in our comfort zone. That's totally understandable, but there comes a point where we want to go. Well, for me, is my fear of stepping forward and being seen and doing something like I'm doing now, is my fear of failing at that larger than my fear of staying stuck where I was and feeling miserable and unhappy? And that was what finally got me to make changes. Was I realised that actually I wasn't, the thought of staying where I was and staying how I was greater than the thought of stepping out and not doing well or failing. And so it's really important to be able to identify when you are standing back or not moving forward because of some subconscious or imaginary fear. So a big part of how I started to move past my fears and anxieties, and if you've listened to any other webinars that I've done or read any blog posts, you may know this, but if you're new to what I talk about, you may not. In my 30s, I had a lot of disordered eating going on, and I was following a very strict diet, very intense exercise program. I really monitored my weight. I was very thin, masquerading as exceptionally healthy, but it wasn't healthy at all. And it was all about control, because I was so fearful of failing, fearful of stepping out and being seen, that I just wanted to control my environment. And part of doing that was controlling my body as well. And I find a lot of women have a relationship, or how I put it is that the relationship with your body reflects the relationship you have with life. And that was definitely the case for me, in that my relationship with life was very restrictive, and my relationship with my body was very restrictive. And I think it's part of my journey has been connecting back in with my body and being willing to listen and trust to my body, which is the third component I wanted to speak about today. And a lot of women struggle with this because the dieting mentality is something that we grow up with. And I think it's terrifying today. I hear stories about 8-year-olds saying they're fat and want to go on a diet. I mean, it's part of our society, the whole diet mentality: eat less, exercise more, you have to look a certain way. We grow up believing that there's an external answer that will help us feel better about ourselves, look better, be attractive. And that external answer is diet plans in magazines, in books. It's celebrities telling us how we should eat. And we grow up listening to all these external bits of information that tell us how we should eat, what we should eat, when we should eat, how we should weigh, or what we should weigh, that we lose the connection or the ability or the willingness to trust ourselves. So that's the third bit I wanted to talk about, was the idea of trusting your body. And I used to do some workshops called Soulful Eating, which was really around mindful eating. So we've been speaking about mindfulness earlier in this section. And mindful eating is really being present with the food in a way that allows you to listen to your body and not to a diet. So for me, that is consciously choosing to eat with presence for nourishment and with all your senses. Because nourishment isn't just about the nutrients that you eat. Nourishment is also about the pleasure that food provides for you. Food is innately pleasurable. It's innately comforting. It's amazing. We should be able to enjoy it, but it's almost like food starts to become our enemy, whether we are trying to lose weight, or we want to be super fit, or we're just scared of gaining weight. Food is something we must control, and we must control how much we eat and when we eat and what we eat. Mindful eating says, actually, we don't need to control anything at all. We need to be in charge of understanding what it is our body is telling us, which is a very different place to be than controlling. So I think that mindful eating is a whole topic I could talk about for an hour on its own. There's many books on mindful eating, or you might have seen the term intuitive eating. Today, I just wanted to focus on two components of mindful eating that you can start to do straight away, that will not only have a big difference in your building a much nicer relationship with food and your body, but will actually have an impact if you're trying to lose weight, and will help you do that without having to go on a diet. So the two things are why and how much. Now, the why is the trigger for why are you eating at that particular point in time. So if you're online and you can use the chat, what are some reasons that you eat? Anyone wants to put up any there? So for me, I know one of the reasons I sometimes eat is I'm overwhelmed. Whenever I get overwhelmed and want to procrastinate, eating is my go-to. Some people will eat because they're sad, or they're lonely, or they're angry, or they're bored, all reasons that are more emotional. Now, I just want to say that emotional eating isn't inherently bad. As I said a moment ago, food is enjoyable, it's pleasurable, and it's comforting. And sometimes when we're feeling down or we're feeling sad or upset, it's comforting to eat, a big bowl of ice cream or cake or whatever your comfort food is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal, that's good. What is not so good is if every time you feel sad, you eat a huge bowl of ice cream, or if every time you get angry, or if every time you get bored, you revert to the food to soothe you, rather than identifying what the actual problem is and doing something to solve the true problem. That emotional eating is a mask to the problem, and that can be damaging because you'll end up putting on weight and feeling even worse about yourself. Whereas just emotional eating of itself isn't that bad. But the main reason people should be eating is obviously because they're hungry. I'd say about 90% of the time, if you were eating because you're hungry, that would be fantastic. And it's not rocket science. It sounds remarkably simple. But if you've spent a lot of your life on a diet where you've been told what you should and shouldn't eat, to just simply go, I'm going to eat whatever I like when I'm hungry, can be quite confronting. And I've had women get quite anxious at the thought of being able to do that. Because the first thing is, if I eat what I want when I'm hungry, then I will just eat all the bad stuff and I'll eat way too much because I'm always hungry. Probably the reason they're always hungry is they're always starving themselves because they're on a diet. And the other thing is, the mind is a funny thing. Once we deny ourselves something, that's what we want. So if you take away the denial and just open it up to listening to your hunger and identifying when you're hungry, then that just takes all the rules away. And it's a much easier way of being. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is the idea of listening to your body about fullness and how much you should eat. And again, I think for a lot of us that gets out of whack because of following a diet. I know for me, I used to restrict myself so much with my food. Looking back on how little I ate, I have no idea how I functioned in a day. I think I was probably starving hungry most of the time. So of course, eventually when my willpower would go down or when I would allow myself a cheat, I'd go crazy because I'd just been hungry for so long, days or weeks or however long I'd been sticking to my diet, that when I let go of control, I let go of all control, I was starving. So, understanding when you're full is really important. The flip side of that is if you're someone who's an overeater and eats either binges or just eats too much at one go, often it's because you've lost the ability to listen to your fullness signals as well. And that can happen if you're eating emotionally all the time because you're eating to stuff an emptiness that isn't a hunger emptiness, it's an emptiness of whatever the problems that you are having. So being mindfully connected to your body is it is the answer to feeling confident and looking gorgeous, because you're connecting in with what your body wants. And it's an amazing thing, our body. It will adapt and it will tell us what we need. It will tell us what we're craving. And I don't know if ever it's happened to you. I know it happens to me often if I'm starting to come down with a flu or a cold. Before I even realise that, I find I'm craving oranges or citrus. And then I'll start feeling like, I'm getting a cold. And it's just my body going, I need vitamin C. Or you'll be craving bananas or nuts, almonds, and it's because you need maybe more potassium in your body. So our body does tell us what we need. It's just most of the time we don't trust it enough to listen to it. So for me, I guess the reason I spoke about these three things today, I think they are some of the foundation of stepping into being confident from the inside. So the idea of being more mindful and being able to live in a much more relaxed response just allows that space to make focused decisions. When we're all tied up in knots about having to achieve, having to push forward, having to go hard, lots of haves, lots of shoulds, lots of musts, it just is exhausting, and you don't have the space to make decisions that are really the best for you. The idea of being able to let go of the fears that are holding you back. And it's not about ignoring them. They were there for a reason. It's about going, is this fear valid? Is the outcome, or this, whatever the outcome of the fear, is that really going to happen? And if it does happen, what's the worst thing that can come from that? We imagine that these things are going to go pear-shaped before they even get a chance to, which is the definition of living in the future, worrying about what if, if I make this decision, what's going to happen? All this what ifs just have us living in the future, and that just creates anxiety. And again, there's no space to relax into making good decisions and feeling comfortable where we are. And then underpinning that is connecting back in with your body, which is, for me, really important. And I think one of the reasons I find that so important is I spent a lot of years reading a lot of self-help books. I spent a lot of years doing workshops and courses. I spent a lot of years trying to meditate. I did my yoga teacher training. I spent a lot of years looking and learning. And I knew a lot. I knew a lot about mind, body, spirit. I knew a lot about nutrition and personal training. I did my courses. I got to certifications. I learnt a lot. But it wasn't until I started to embody it and actually act and live with it that my life started to change. And that's the tricky thing, I think, especially for us smart, intelligent, successful women, is that we're not stupid. We understand what we should and shouldn't be doing. We've read the books. We've had our education. We're smart. We can search things on Google. We can find out what we should and shouldn't be doing. But it's all in our head. It's all, and by that I mean it's all intellectual. We know it. It's the embodying it and actually really living it that I found the difficult thing to do. And I found that so frustrating because I felt like I was even more of a failure because I knew what I should be doing to feel more relaxed, to become a kinder, nicer person, to follow my dreams when I knew I wasn't. But I knew the steps I should take to manifest them, but I couldn't because I was too scared to move forward, and what if, and all those things going on in my head, until I started to take it out of my intellect and into my heart and into my gut. Nothing changed. So it took a long time. And I wish I had stepped forward and gotten some more help, I think, on getting there. I always had to do it the hard way. I don't know if you're like that, but I think a lot of women who are quite successful have done it the hard way. So it's like everything needs to be done the hard way if it's worth doing. So what I've put together, and this is my exciting bit for me today, is to talk about my new coaching program, which I've called 90 Days to Feeling Confident and Feeling Groovy. Actually, I didn't call that. I've called it 90 Days to Feminine Confidence and Feeling Groovy. And I've put that together. It's a one-on-one coaching program. So it's not a group thing. It's just one-on-one with myself. And I'll just put up a slide here. It's the first time I've done the slide share. So I will just, how do I do that? I did it the other day, screen share. Okay. So I hope everyone can see that. This is what it's about. There's three components to it. One is, so it's sort of mind, body, spirit. is the way it fell out, even though I didn't intend to, when I was putting it together, for it to come out like that. It really distinctly came out in these 3 areas. So part of it is about finding peace. And by that I mean being free from the self-limiting beliefs and taking charge of that ego mind that is keeping you in fear, so that you can start taking action from flow, from being in flow with yourself, flow with the universe, in flow with nature, whatever it is that you connect with. The second part really is about the body, and it's about trusting and listening to your body so you feel confident and look gorgeous. Now, good body image is not about not caring what you look like. It's about not comparing. We do want to look good. We are women, and part of being a feminine woman is wanting to look gorgeous. So this part of the coaching is around good nourishment, good movement, and good style. Because while it's really important who we are on the inside, let's face it, it's important to us how we look on the outside as well. So you can have both. You can have that connection to your inner spirit and look gorgeous as well. So we'll focus on that. And the third bit around, I call it finding your groove. And that for me is when you really find that place in life where things are sweet. You're connected to your true self. You're connected to chasing your dreams. You're doing that with ease and grace. You know, sometimes shit happens and it goes pear-shaped, but you're so in your path in life that you can deal with that. And it doesn't pull everything down and make everything go pear-shaped. You're just in your groove and making it all happen. And I've made it 90 days because I think change doesn't happen overnight. As I mentioned before, a lot of how we act is habits, and new behaviours are simply learning new habits, and it does take a while to make that change. And 90 days isn't as long as my 12. I have other programs that's a 12-month program, and that's a long time for some people to commit to, even though it can take that long to really have change in your life. But 90 days is really about helping you feel re-energized, feel inspired, and confidently take action now. So I'll just stop the screen sharing so you can see me again. Yes, it's worked. I'm not asking you to buy now, and in fact, I don't want you to buy now. What I would like to do is talk to you if you think this is something that might be for you. I'd like to be able to either jump on the phone or Skype, so you can ask some questions and find out more about it to see if it is for you. And I can also make sure that I think I can add value and I can help you, because I want to work with people that I know I can make a difference with. And if you're not the right person for this particular program, then that's the way it is, and I'll say so, or if you feel so, then that's fine. So I did have my email on that last slide. It was kim@happyhealthygroovy.com.au. It will also be on any of those emails I sent you with the webinar. So I really would just love to hear from you if you have any questions at all about this. If you think even there's a little bit inside you going, yeah, I'm ready for this. And we have to be ready for change. You know, it's like changing any habit or any behavior. You know when you're ready. There's still that resistance, and I know I resisted change for a long time, in that I finally got to know that I wanted to step out of the job I was with. It was not good for me mentally or physically. It was making me sick in the end, but it still took a long time for me to step out of that, because, you know, change is scary. But I knew inside that I was going to, a long time before I actually did it. So if there is anything to you saying, maybe I am interested in this, or if you would just like to talk to me about any questions you have that about the program, or just in general about anything I'm saying today, I'd love to hear from you. So you can send me an email at kim@happyhealthygroovy.com.au. I just want to thank everyone for coming, and I think, where are we at? Yeah, we're just under the 45 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, like I say, this is the first time I've used the Google Hangout platform, so I'm not sure if people have sent through any questions on chat that I haven't seen. Doesn't doesn't seem to be any questions here at the moment, so I hope that's just because there aren't any questions and not because I can't see them properly. So if there's no other questions, I really want to thank you for joining me today. And if this is your lunch break, back to work for you, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I can't wait to speak to you again soon. So bye.